All right, Courtney, today was a practice here for the Bears, and what did you see and what did you hear?
So it was a shorter day. They were in shells, 2 long days in pads, live tackling to the ground yesterday, which we don't often see or haven't the last couple of years. I think it was a smart way for them to pull back on it today in the intensity and then get some red zone work done. First red zone period and team looked good for Caleb Williams. There are a couple completions that stood out to me. Of course, the one to Luther Burden, running the route out of the slot where he ran 75% of his routes the last 2 years at Missouri, goes over the middle, catches the ball, gets a nice ovation from the fans. And then he had one to DJ Moore, he had one to Zacchaeus. But the red zone period at the end of the day, which is obviously it's all scripted, they had 5 plays. 0 for 2 for Caleb with a sack, but he finishes with a read option keeper, touchdown run for him. So it was a mixed bag. And I think with Caleb and hearing from him after practice today, he's through 7 of these. There's good moments, there's bad moments, but it doesn't feel like he's taking a step back anywhere. That even on days like, the way he finished practice today is probably not how he wanted to. Yes, they scored, but I'm sure he would have liked to have connected with Roma Dunze on that pass to the back of the goal line and having a chance to do more than just run one in. But there's going to be a lot of different ways the next couple of weeks that they test him in those scenarios. So I like that we're seeing more of the red zone work emphasized early on in camp. There's been 2 heavy days of that. I would include today in that, considering that's the majority of what they did, and then last Friday. But I think hearing from Caleb about his workload and what he's being expected to do when everything is brand new, 7 days in, he's been dealing with a lot. He's learning a lot, been dealing with a lot with this offense, and to where he's at right now, I think he's shown some strong strides, and staff feels the same too.
Courtney, did Loveland or Komet show up today in the red zone in any way, shape, or form?
So Burden did. Loveland has, the tight ends that did catch touchdown passes were 88 and 81. So Stephen Carlson being one of them, and I think Durham Smith as well. But not much from Cole Komet today.
Okay.
Not that. I don't know if that's just is where the reads went, where Caleb decided to go with the ball. But what Colston Loveland has done to this point of camp. I mean, he's only been back really in full team stuff since Saturday. He's making a nice impression, and that's where you're going to be wondering where they're using the tight ends, because that's where Cole Komet, from Justin Fields to the early part of Caleb Williams' career last year, he's a target down there inside the 20. Does that now shift to Colston Loveland? Is that still a role that Komet takes on? I think you'll see more of that as they get into deeper practices with that, but today went just under an hour and 30 minutes, so you didn't see a whole ton from them down there, but a catch here or there for Colston Loveland as he continues to build his rapport with his quarterback is a good sign.
Courtney, what have you seen from Tyreek Stevenson so far in camp, and what have you heard from Dennis Allen with regard to Tyreek Stevenson?
I see a player who this scheme's going to benefit because they want to play press man coverage. This is his opportunity to use his frame, to use his physicality, to go, what did he call it, mano-y-mano earlier in the spring. This is his chance to get the better of his opponent, a receiver, whoever he's lined up against. And so far, in the reps that he's getting, he's doing that. But this is a battle for the number 2 cornerback spot. And I think Dennis Allen saying that it's completely open, I don't think that that's just coach speak or that he was baited into that answer, because Jalen Johnson's job is Jalen Johnson's job. Whenever he comes back, that's your number 1 corner. Rightfully so. You paid him for it a couple of years ago. That's his job. The battle between Nashawn Wright and Tyreek Stevenson for the number 2 spot, I think, is probably one of the more intriguing battles that is now developing at training camp. We might not have thought that would have been the case. Not many people knew who Nashawn Wright was when he came here from Minnesota in the spring, but it's definitely brewing. There's something there, and it's not just that they're rotating in DBs and they're trying to get everybody a look. I think those two are legitimately in a competition for the job Stevenson had last year.
Maybe you can't tell at all, but or maybe you can. Do you notice anything different attitude-wise that is different from Stevenson? I always remember, he's one of those types of players that really was emotional but they liked that because it fueled him. But then we saw last year where he trips a guy. We know what happened in Washington, that these emotions were getting the best of him and they weren't working for him. So what do you see as far as the way he is carrying himself and maybe his emotion and talkability on the sideline?
Well, I can tell you what I heard the other day. I can't exactly say it on radio, but there was a pass breakup in their red zone period on Friday. He was in coverage on DJ Moore, and as we heard Dennis Allen talk about today, or I think it was Ben Johnson yesterday, the coverage is getting stickier. They are draping their DBs on these receivers, and in not so kind words, Tyreek Stevenson let DJ Moore know he got the better of him. A couple of expletives in there, and I don't think you ever want to coach that out of your DBs. You have to have a level of swagger. You have to have an attitude to be the one to deliver that contact, break up a pass, or come away with the ball. And for Tyreek, that's going to be a fine line to walk this year, just knowing the first instance of anything that looks like he's either showboating or looks like he's, not 100% locked in, people are going to point that out. He does not have a long leash to work with here, and I don't think that that's rocket science for anybody to figure out. But he's kept his emotions in check. There hasn't been anything in training camp that would lead you to believe, he's, going down the wrong path. But I think he's got more on his plate from that respect because of what happened last year, that the margin for error, like he can't have any of that be because of any of the outside of the line stuff for him, if that makes sense.
Sure. So we've got that brewing with the second cornerback position. Of course, the biggest competition is at left tackle. This was something I overheard yesterday. I wasn't like eavesdropping, but I was walking with a couple of fans, and next to the fans was Dan Roshar, the offensive line coach. And the fans were asking him, hey, who's going to win the left tackle position? And Roshar said, he goes, right now, no one is standing out. They're having some good days and some down days. It's very up and down. He goes, I'll assure you this, we will have a good one in there by opening day. So I liked the confident answer there that he's going to develop him and coach him up. What is your prediction, Courtney, on the way they line up on opening day?
I think it's Braxton Jones's job to lose, but they're giving him a lot of rest days right now. We're 7 days into practice. I know that he has had, he's coming back off the ankle surgery, but that's 2 days out of the 7 that he hasn't practiced. He wasn't out there today. Jonah Jackson, a separate injury. He's got a leg injury and he's day today. He's not out there either. But 40 starts is 40 starts, guys. Like, I know that Ben Johnson said that they're going to do a clean slate approach with this. Like, that's coach speak to me. I think the knowledge of the game, of what you need day one and how long this thing could take, because you've got 3 guys, you're trying to get equal reps throughout the time training camp, the duration of it over 6 weeks. Realistically, that's not enough to find out truly for like the younger guys who have never done this before, whether they're capable of doing it. And I think for Jones being in a contract year, for Jones in the situation where he's in, where he's got the institutional knowledge of playing left tackle, not this offense, but like playing left tackle in the NFL, I think if I have to predict it right now, I think he's your week 1, day 1 starting left tackle. Ozzie Trapillo's your swing tackle, and that at some point you'll see a real-time changing of the guard. I witnessed this in Minnesota in the 2021 season with Christian Darrisaw, and I believe it was Riley Reif at the time. He was their starting left tackle for the first 5-6 weeks. Darrisaw was coming off of an injury. There happened to be a moment in practice where that shifted, and all of a sudden your first-round draft pick was playing left tackle for the remainder of the season. I would not be surprised unless something crazy happens in camp where somebody just like all of a sudden shines in preseason games and the joint practices, that they don't go with the incumbent starter, and then when they find a spot, make Trapillo the starter going forward. But again, we're 7 days in. I still think it's too early to forecast that one yet, just because 3 guys, a limited amount of reps for everybody. You're seeing like there'll be times where Trapillo starts with the 1s and all of a sudden he's taking reps with the 3s. Like that happened today because they've got to find bodies to be able to fill out the rest of these units and making sure they can evaluate them as much as they can.
Courtney, did I hear correctly today? I don't know if it was Ben Johnson or maybe it was Roshar or somebody talking about how, hey, they would like to have this decision made well before the start of the regular season. In fact,
Miami?
Yeah, for the Miami for the Miami preseason game, they would like to have a really good feel for who is their best guy at that spot.
Well, Ryan Poles said that in the spring. He said that by training camp they wanted to know. Obviously, that's not the case. Ben left it open-ended. He said, it could take 3 weeks, it could take 6 weeks. Obviously, the sooner the better because you want that unit to gel, but I have not heard a deadline as far as by the Miami joint practice they want to know. I would imagine you're going to see several multiple guys getting reps with the ones because that's your best competition you can gauge yourself against. I know they're in pads right now, but how effectively do you handle a bull rush from a player you have not seen every single day, and you're not preparing for certain pass rush moves from a player that it really has nothing to lose going against you. I know that there was an intense practice yesterday, but there's not a benefit of hurting your own teammate out there, so they back off on certain things. It'll be interesting to see how it takes shape next week, but a week in, I think that they're still trying to play the long game here, or at least another week or two. You don't obviously want to wait the whole 6 weeks of camp and then be going into cut down week, figuring out who it is. But I would imagine that first joint practice is going to factor in pretty heavily to who ends up getting that job.
Yeah. All right, participate in this exercise with us. We did it with your favorite person, Patrick Finley, on Monday. And I asked him the question in order, I don't need yardage, but give me what you will predict the order of receiving yards will be with all of the Bears skill guys. I'm not just talking about wide receivers, so I'm going tight ends and even a running back if you want to throw in there. Mm-hmm. From the top, who will lead them on down in the order?
In order, no numbers.
No numbers. You don't have to give me numbers. Yeah, no, just give me an order.
Okay. Order would be Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Colston Loveland, DeAndre Swift.
Ooh.
Cole Kmet. Is that fair? I've given you 5. Do you need me to go further down the depth chart?
So Luther Burden is down on the list.
I would say Luther Burden, Cole Kmet. If I'm looking at 5 right now, somebody somewhere is in there. But think about, or that order could switch, but think about what they did in Detroit. I've said this since Colston Loveland was drafted. He is supposed to be Sam Laporta to this offense. And Sam Laporta was their third leading receiver as a rookie. And he had 17, 18 touchdowns over 2 years. You draft a guy that high if you expect him to, be a big member of your passing game. But, everything else from what we know about how many mouths they had to feed, they had 2,000-yard receivers there last year. Could DJ Moore and Rome Odunze become that? Absolutely. And take a step further, I think Rome's the number one in this offense. That's not any slight on DJ Moore. I just think that they're going to use him, Odunze, as your prototypical X receiver, out wide, contested catch, 50-50 ball, straight line speed, all of it. I think that that's his role, and I think they're going to move DJ around a lot because of his yak ability. They can put him in the slot. They can put him anywhere. And we're seeing them tinker with him in the backfield some. But you have, let's say, 2,000-yard receivers there. Just throw a blanket number. Sam Laporta was their third leading receiver last year. So that could be, I think, Colston Loveland. Jahmyr Gibbs was their fourth leading receiver, and then it was Tim Patrick. So you have 2 receiver, 2 wideouts, a tight end, a running back, and then everybody else. So it's a lot of mouths to feed on offense, and just knowing what you have. They didn't have a brand-new receiver there last year. They do here. That throws another wrinkle into it. They didn't have a brand-new tight end last year. So I think if you're going off the blueprint that Ben gave everybody in Detroit, it looks similar to that. But I don't think it's a bad thing if Luther Burden is around 400, 500 yards as a rookie. Just knowing the other mouths that they have to feed elsewhere at that position.
If he's 4 of 500 yards and he's 5th or 6th, that would be a good offense. So I would take that. I'm with you. Courtney, any other things you want to relay before we let you go?
The interesting thing, I think that, we heard today, obviously, from Dennis Allen about how much dime they're playing, how, they're going to keep rotating the guys in. We talked about the Tyreek Stevenson, Nashawn Wright thing at cornerback, the number 2 job. I think that there's some stuff with this pass rush because, do you guys still get the question all the time about are the Bears going to sign another pass rusher?
Yes, we want to know that too.
Yeah.
I just don't get the vibe that they're in a big hurry to do so right now.
Courtney,
really think
quick,
that.
let me interject this real quick. Do you get the sense that Adengbo is going to be more effective inside than outside?
Well, they've been kicking him inside some,
Yeah.
and they rotate, like whether it's Andrew Billings next to Grady Jarrett or Jervon Dexter in there as well. Like they're rotating their interior tackles. Their interior defensive linemen, their defensive tackles, for lack of a better term. I think the most effective part of this pass rush might honestly be coming from the interior early on. That's not to say anything about Montez Sweat, Odengbo, all of that, but knowing how they plan to use Dio on the inside, I think that's where it's going to come from.
Yeah,
and that's why I don't know if there's this big hurry right now for them to, they're not going to pay big money for guys that are looking for it right now, whether it's a Clowney, Zadarius Smith, if he's still out there, like some of the other big names. I don't think they're in a hurry to do that. I think they expect, someone who's had kind of a quiet camp has been Austin Booker so far. Curious to see, what he develops into when they, are in those joint practices to see who with the 2s and the 3s are getting those reps. But I'm not convinced that this is that they view it as big of a need to sign somebody right now as maybe we thought in the offseason.
Courtney, great stuff. We'll see you at camp tomorrow, okay?
Thanks, Courtney.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.